Hi everyone and welcome back to another beautiful, amazing presentation. I'm your host, Eugene Popa, and I'm very excited to have with us my good friend Jan Koch, who is the owner of Virtual Summit Mastery and a passionate Virtual Summit host, connecting with people and building an audience globally. I have to say, I've been doing a lot of summits myself, a lot of events, and I've been fortunate enough to be connected with Jan and learn a lot from him. So I know you're gonna have a lot of stuff to learn from this guy. He has been organizing summits since 2015, so almost 7 years now, and brought together well over 15,000 attendees from 110 plus countries on his summits. Jan's mission is to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses through the power of virtual events. And if you're watching this presentation right now, you are at one point or another an entrepreneur, regardless of the fact that you're a coach, a consultant, or a therapist, because you want to make more money, you want to help more people know about you and help more people, so that makes you an entrepreneur right there. So after experiencing how a virtual summit transformed his own business and helped him escape the dreaded feast and famine cycles, he went all in on virtual summits. So years later, Virtual Summit Mastery has become the household name for teaching aspiring summit hosts how to do their summits right and for companies to hire when they want their own virtual summits. He has a daughter. He's a human being, by the way, guys. He has a daughter and a wife who he loves dearly. And in his spare time, he enjoys running obstacle runs, occasionally drinking coffee, investing in cryptocurrencies, or playing around in the smart home space. All right, so everybody say welcome to Jan Koch. Jan, thank you so much for saying yes to my invitation to this event.
Eugene, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be a part of your summit.
Absolutely. It's an honor for me because I know you have so much stuff to offer, and I don't even know where to start with you, man. Because, I've been doing summits myself, and some people say, well, you don't want to spill out your secrets and let others know what you know because you're going to X, Y, Z. I don't care about that. I want as many people as possible to know how to do summits, and I know you're the right person to share this information. So the title of your presentation is The Fastest Way to Build an Engaged and Profitable Email List. So looking forward to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. And actually what I'm about to do is let me do a screen share really quick. I want to run through a quick masterclass for virtual summits. And the point being is that hosting a virtual summit might sound intimidating, and I want to break this down. And I think the best way to do this is by having a few slides and visualizing the processes and the steps you have to take. Because in the end, it's not so hard to run a virtual summit. It is a lot of work, but if you have the game plan and if you have the understanding of why a summit works, it's not as difficult to execute. So for me, virtual summits are my favorite way to become the expert in your field, and that's something that any coach consultant wants to be. It's like everybody and their dog has gone online over the past 2 years with Corona coming up, and we have to set ourselves apart. And I think this is what you are doing an exceptional job with, Eugene, is you are sharing the secrets. You come from an abundance mindset, and all it takes really is just raising your profile and exponentially scaling your email list. And the virtual summit is a great way to do that. So after watching this presentation, I hope that everybody watching this can also see how they can host a virtual summit. I'll do my best to break it down in the easiest way possible so that everybody watching can grow your email list. You can build new income streams, frankly, from hosting a virtual summit. Bit of background, you've already shared most of it. I just love the picture of our silver Labrador with this massive bone that she got for her second birthday. I've brought together 20,000 attendees, reached 120 plus countries. I took over VSM in 2021 from Navid Moases. So I'm not the founder of VSM, but I've been in the program since 2014 in the very, very beginning. And why are virtual summits such a great way? The challenge we all face is organic reach is dead. It's essentially on any platform, whether you think LinkedIn, whether you think about Twitter or Facebook, you barely reach people with the content you put out. So you're essentially shouting into your nirvana if you are creating content. Even with SEO and with paid traffic, it's becoming more unreliable by the day. You see ad accounts getting shut down for no reason, left, right, and center. And I have experienced my Facebook ad account being shut down, I think 7 times in a year for no reason
What?
other than the algorithm going wrong. And it's not fun because every time the pixel gets reset and every time
Yeah.
your campaigns start from zero again, and all the money you spend warming up the audience is wasted money essentially. So what do you want to do when you want to set yourself apart from the competition? Competitors are upping up their game. I have good connections in the WordPress space, and I know how much money the big companies are spending on content creation. You have no chance to compete with that. Whether it is a hosting company, whether it is a SaaS company, and don't get me started on IBM and Microsoft and all the other big names in any industry, really. They understand the importance of content marketing, and they can pay freelance writers up to $300, $400, $500 per article, and
Wow.
then they hire 50 of those. So you cannot compete when it's coming to SEO. You can't compete when it comes to the amount of content that you have to put out. But with a virtual summit, you can make a dent in your industry. And look who we have seen here on the screen. It's your NLP Master Summit is one of the examples.
Yeah, yeah.
And essentially what I want to make sure is that the people watching this, everybody can run a virtual summit, I believe. I've seen so many different people execute a virtual summit properly. Whether you're just starting out, you're in a job and you want to get to that level where your coaching business becomes a full-time income, or whether you already have a 7-figure coaching business and you want to take it to 8 figures or 9 figures, this is all possible. And I've seen it in 100+ different markets. So here's why the business isn't growing right now. And I've been there. I've been guilty of this 2012 to 2015 before my first virtual summit. I thought maybe I just write another blog post, and then I write another blog post, and then I write another blog post. And eventually I get that SEO traffic that builds my email list and that I get leads. The problem is you're just keeping yourself in a self-employed job. You're creating a rat race for yourself. And if you want to escape that corporate rat race and you go into your own rat race, what's the point? Why are we even doing this, right? And I've seen many coaches struggle with this, where they have built a business based purely around hustle mentality, purely around being on Facebook 24/7, sliding into DMs, trying to pitch people on their services, or commenting on other people's posts and then spamming Facebook groups, or be it on LinkedIn. It's in LinkedIn groups, it's even worse with spam. I feel there's a lot more going on, and you don't want to do this. You want to have so much authority in your space that people come to your email list, they engage with the content that you show them, and by aligning yourself with other people that you're interviewing on the summit, just like Yushin and I doing right now, I get to raise my visibility because I am on Yushin's summit, and Yushin gets to raise his profile because he's interviewing 20 experts, and I happen to be one of the lucky ones that made the cut somehow. And that's the point, right? I mean, you bring together people that are already known in your industry on a virtual summit, and their authority rubs off on you. And you, as a summit host, don't even have to be the expert in this space. You just have to ask questions that your audience has. And you just need to make sure that the pain points that your audience has for this session, it is, how do I build an audience, and how do I build that email list, and how do I create this damn cash flow that's every single month my expenses are covered and I make a nice profit and I can build the lifestyle that I want to have. You invite people who can speak to that. You don't have to have all the answers yourself. Now, you well know, Yushin, how to execute virtual summits properly, but essentially what you are doing is you have other people give away the transformation to your attendees, and you just look good along the way because you made the transformation happen and you set it up.
Yeah. So back home, we have a saying that goes something like this: whoever shares the honey get to lick their fingers. So it's like, you spread the goods, and of course you'll be associated with the goods as well.
Yeah, that's the entire point of a virtual summit. So let's talk about the 7 steps that we have in Virtual Summit Mastery. Number one is you set your foundation, meaning you become very clear about who you are hosting the summit for, what transformation you want your attendees to go through during the summit. And based on that, you understand how you have to position your summit in the industry, how you set yourself apart from the other events, and who's actually going to be a good speaker. And then when you have that list of speakers, you start connecting, you start reaching out. And I hear multiple times every single day that people come to me and they say, I don't know how to get any influencer to speak at my virtual summit. Why would anybody even pay attention to me? And you would be surprised how often people say yes just because you tell them you are hosting a virtual summit, because many people already know how much work goes into hosting a virtual summit and they respect that. So you don't need to have a big audience. You just need to tell them, hey, I'm hosting a virtual summit for ABC audience. This is why I think you would be a great fit. Are you open to having a 30-minute interview with me for that event? And you'd be surprised how many people say yes on that basic request. Then
I have to say something here. Just let me just pop in here, because this is something very important that a lot of people don't understand, especially when it comes to summits. I've been doing, I think, 7 or 8 summits so far in a very short span of time. What I can say is that I've had many people that were speakers at the summits I've hosted, or attendees of these summits, and they were in disbelief of some of the speakers that we brought on for those summits. They were basically like, how in the world did you manage to get that guy or that speaker to present your summit? It's like, I can't believe it. It's like, because that particular person is like like God level, so to speak. And how did you get them to say yes to present for your summit? And one thing that I learned is I just asked. And it's as dumbfounding as it sounds. If you just ask, you'll be amazed how many people would actually say yes.
Yeah, it's true. I had co-hosted a virtual summit in April in the high-tech B2B industry on a level of C-suite, so executives who work with companies like Microsoft and IBM and blah, blah. And one of the speakers we got was the #1 best-selling author in the B2B sales space. He opened the Adobe World Keynote. I think 4,000 people in person in Sydney. He opened that conference. He won 2 awards for his sales webinars last year from individual and independent magazines. 500,000 people in the audience combined from his on his profiles. He spoke at the summit for free and he promoted. People understand the importance of being out there and being seen. And that is what soon-to-be summit hosts have to understand as well. There are different levels of people. You won't get a Gary Vee to speak at your virtual summit for free. You won't get a Tim Ferriss to speak at your virtual summit for free. You won't get a Guy Kawasaki to speak at your summit for free. But the level below that is totally possible to get them to speak for free. And you want to have a good mix of influencers, and I'll talk about that in a minute in those the slides here. So let's continue with that. You want to have, when you have your influencers, you obviously need a summit website. So you build a registration page, you build the thank you page, you build an upsell page for the tickets, you build the individual speaker pages where you embed the sessions, and then you have agenda pages, and that's essentially the bare bones structure of a summit. You can make it as complex as you want, or you can make it as easy as you want. And you don't need those inner pages for the speaker sessions. You don't need those until the summit really starts. So that's why I am having those funnel and website steps before recording the sessions, because you can still do the pre-launch with just the registration pages up. You don't need to have those summit and speaker pages on. Then you record the sessions, you deliver the summit content. That is when you actually embed the sessions into the website. You launch your virtual summit, and you turn your summit success into massive business growth. And that's fancy speak for you repurpose the summit contents. You can turn them into a book. You can turn them into blog posts. We spoke off camera about evergreen virtual summits. You can relaunch the summit. There's various ways you can turn this into more growth than just a one-time virtual summit. So I have 3 secrets that I want to share in this masterclass. Number 1 is, how do you actually build that email list with targeted and engaged subscribers? This is my first ever virtual event. You can tell how good of a designer I was back then. In 2015, not.
No, I love it. Yeah, sometimes simple is the best, right?
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I still can't design well, but this is like, I'm a bit embarrassed of this, but it worked. It brought in $13,000 in profits from the first virtual summit, and I had some good names on this. This is obviously in the WordPress space, and I never forget this first email. This is a PayPal notification with the first ever all access pass that I sold. Yeah, the first ever sale.
I know.
It is magical when you have that
coming. I can't believe it. Yes. I'm so with you.
Up until that point, I was shaking and I was nervous. And what if this fails? And what if nobody pays attention to me? And have I just wasted 2 months or 3 months of my life putting this together? Yeah. And then this first sale comes in and you are like, yeah. You still can't calculate the hourly rate. But it's still a nice validation. And this is true for any new digital product really that I've launched so far. The first sale always is the most exciting. And some numbers from that first summit, I took my email list from 600 subscribers to 3,600, and I made over $13,000 in profits from that first virtual event. So that was life-changing for me at the time. And that got me hooked. And the first step is that you have to niche down until it hurts. And you know that saying from VSM, you have to really identify what is the market that you are serving and what's the niche and maybe the sub niche in that market. So those are a few of the markets that Virtual Summit Mastery has been successful in. Just recently, Mitch Esser, our mutual friend, shared that one of his summits in the dog training space broke 6 figures. So that's insane. I would have never guessed that. But here's another example. Diana Rowan did the Virtual Harp Summit and did multiple 6 figures with her virtual events. And you can download a workbook at this. This is a surprise freebie that Fusion even doesn't know about. You can download a Virtual Summit workbook at this URL so that you can identify what is your niche for the Virtual Summit if you wanted to host one, if you entertain that idea. And to take a bit away from that workbook, you'll see questions like, who is your summit for? What are the wants, needs, and pains and desires of your target audience? And you probably have that. If your business is doing well, you probably have some data flying around somewhere in Notion or Google Drive or wherever you store your information. And you really pinpoint that avatar. You pinpoint that customer that you are already serving. And you realize what are the problems they have right now? How am I solving them with my offerings? And how could a virtual summit solve with those people at scale? How can I interview the right people to speak about the problems that I'm already solving with my one-to-one coaching, for example, or my group coaching? How can I take that at scale and interview people about that? And then you can see some numbers from virtual summits. So on the right-hand side, you can see Chandler Bowles' first virtual events from self-publishing school, 30,000 subscribers and 370,000 revenue. He had an established coaching business. He helped soon-to-be authors self-publish their book, and he upsold them on the coaching package that he had, I think for $3,000 at the time. He was upselling that, and that's how he made so much money. But even if you don't have an established audience, you can see some numbers in here. Those are still respectable numbers. I mean, 16 grand is nothing to look down at.
I just wanna make a point here, Jan, before we go any further. For everybody who's watching, for some people, these numbers are astronomical. Okay, just want to throw that out there. For
Right.
some of the participants, these are impossible numbers. Like they've never thought in their entire life that they could actually have this, much money being made as a coach or as a therapist. It's like I've just started up my business. I've just taken a course, a coaching or NLP or hypnosis training. And they did teach me some information in the hypnosis training that, I could do this or that or the other. But they could, like for some, and I know that from my own perspective, because like, how in the world would I actually be able to make an event where I make so much money? Like, that's
Right.
impossible, right? And so I know this for a fact, and it's important to bring awareness to this because most people would be very apprehensive of those numbers. The very first summit that I ran, I think I made, and it was a local one in Romania, and I think we've done about 15,000 euros in that event. And it was a local one in Romania. It was not international, but it completely paid off. It completely paid off in full the investment I've made in the summit program that we purchased when I decided to join the VSM.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad that you are pointing this out because I'm seeing similar numbers thrown around. So I just tend to go over them. But you're absolutely right. And it boils down to the mindset that people have about their business. And just because you have never made 16,000 on a digital product launch or on a virtual summit launch doesn't mean that you cannot earn that much in the future. So the most important aspect to highlight, I think, is, and that is what you've been doing from the very beginning, you focus on the value that you want to deliver to your attendees. You don't have the numbers in mind. You don't set a goal of, I want to squeeze every single dollar possible out of this virtual summit. The most successful events are focused on how can I make this the best experience possible for the attendees. And then the money follows almost automatically, because if you deliver a transformational experience for the attendees on your summit, then they will want to catch the replays, because likely if you bring together 20 experts over the course of 5 days, attendees who sign up for the live summit, they don't have time to watch 20 interviews. We all have lives. We all have jobs
or 30,
to do.
Yeah.
So the point of a virtual summit a little bit is to intentionally overwhelm the attendees so that there is an incentive to upgrade, but you do that in the most loving way. You do that in a way where people still can get value from the free summit and they still get valuable sessions. And then those who see the value in the free sessions that they've seen, they decide for themselves if they want to upgrade or not.
And I love this, and I just want to point this out. When you said in the most loving way, I think the most loving way, at least in my perspective, there is this almost funny quote, so to speak, which is, make the summits in a shut up and take my money way.
Yeah.
like you overwhelm, like you said yourself, you overwhelm them with so much information, so much value, and because time doesn't allow for too much presence or information from them, then they will just have to say, you know what, take my money and
I watch them on demand when I have the time for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Got it.
So step number 2 on that path to building a profitable email list is you position your summit for success. And what I mean by that is, just as you said, shut up and take my money. You didn't even see the slides beforehand, but this summarizes this slide perfectly. You want to get reactions, just as you said, Eugens. This is exactly what I want. I sign up for the summit and I purchase the all access pass because I want lifetime access to everything. It's a total steal. So you want to be at that level of understanding for your attendees that you know exactly what gets them to this reaction, to this decision. And to do that, you have to have a unique summit hook. What is it that attendees will remember when they see your virtual summit? What are the pain points that you solve for them? How can you embed live engagement on the virtual summit? Can you do something with menti.com, for example, where you have live polls and quizzes during your sessions? Do you have live panels? Can you bring attendees onto live streams and ask them questions and get their problem solved straight away? Can you have some fun mottos? I know that Nicole Holland, who's also in VSM, had a business rockstar summit, and every speaker got drawn by an artist as a rock star, and the entire summit was branded under this theme, and that was just so cool. It was, I think, in 2018, and they still bring this up as a reference. So you have to get a little bit creative on how you deliver the virtual summit and what you do at your virtual summit. Some of the bad ideas are going too broad. So the relationship summit won't work, because what type of relationship? Employer-employee relationship, male-female relationship, wife-husband relationship, father-daughter relationship? Like, nobody's going to resonate with that. The business summit, retail summit, writer summit, same story. Great ideas.
One second on the go back to one slide, because I we're going to have to go back and forth to this. I actually I've done a summit on relationships last year, and it was my lowest performing summit. And I think my messaging was very clear, because it's relationship husband, wife, like family relationship, basically. That's what I was like, relationship as man, woman, or as partners relationship. And I did think that it was like a great topic, because a lot of people are in relationships that they want to, a lot of people are complaining about their relationships. Spoilers, not a lot of people, women complain about relationships. And they always, I cannot tell you, man, I had 98%. I've done a kind of like a research. 98% when I ask what is the problem, women's they were like, how can I change my husband or my partner because he has a problem? Oh. It was never the other way around. It was just so funny. Anyway, what I was trying to say is that with the relationship, we had the lowest revenue, and we did have some world-class speakers. But it was the lowest performing for whatever reason. And if I didn't have my partners to help promote, it would have been a tank, basically.
Yeah, you're 100% right with that. And this is why the targeting is so super important. And you have to be very clear about that from the very beginning, because it's super expensive to change direction late in the game. Like if you already have done 15 interviews and then you realize those interviews aren't on point and I need to change my targeting, I need to speak to a different audience, then it's too late. Then you add another 2 months of work to the summit schedule. That's why you want to go deep into your niche. And those are just some ideas that you can take. Women's Strength Summit is great because you're talking to specifically women who exercise, who want to get fit. Fourth Trimester Summit is amazing. Everybody knows exactly who the summit is for. Parenting Teens Summit is fantastic. I hope that's going to happen in 9 years from now when my daughter becomes a teenie. So you see where I'm getting with this. And this is not, it's not rocket science, and it's not specific to virtual summits. I mean, if you are a coach and you say, I'm a business coach, good luck. What type of business? What do you coach on? Who should hire you? Can any type of business hire you? Do you work with SaaS companies? Do you work with CBD companies? Do you work in high-tech IT? Like, this is something that any entrepreneur, any business owner has to think about at some point. And I think the sooner you do it, the better for you. Now, this is secret number one. You have to stand out in the market. You have to understand your audience, and your audience needs to understand from your branding that you are speaking to them. Secret number two for building that profitable email list with the virtual summit is raising your visibility. You never did a summit before. You don't have a huge brand or an audience, and you can still run a virtual summit. I've done that myself. You saw the numbers, 600 to 3,600 attendees. I've seen multiple people like Mitch actually started from zero,
Yeah.
and he was back to the wall. He had literally no money left to invest. He went all in on virtual summits, and he ran a fasting lifestyle summit 3 times, and it changed his life. He's now running summits for his clients, and I think he has done 3 already in 2023, 2022. It's insane how he's producing these summits at an
Yeah.
exceptional
He
level of
was saying,
quality.
he was saying in the group that he has one summit every month that he's
Yeah.
producing.
Can you imagine one summit every month? Even I would burn out, I think.
Yeah. I have 7 this year, so I'm getting
Yeah,
close
you're
to
pretty
the
close. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's also a good example why you're saying that the first summit probably tanks or the first summit breaks even. The second summit makes a profit. The third summit builds on that. The fourth builds on that. So this is a process that you learn and you get better over time, just as with any coaching session. The first coachings that you deliver to your clients won't be great because you're learning and because you're getting used to it. And that's why you probably offer them at a discount and you set your expectations a little bit lower. But then as you become more experienced as a coach and as you deliver this coaching service more and more and more, you get better and you fine-tune your senses and you realize, oh, I have to dig deeper in this section or I have to dig deeper in that section. And it's the same with virtual summits. When you execute them once, you can assess, okay, this strategy didn't work and this type of speaker didn't work at all. And hey, this worked really well. Let me double down on this for the next virtual summit. And by doing that, you stack what works on top of each other and you just build that progress. And Mitch gave me a testimonial that he has generated well over 30,000 email subscribers and well over 6 figures in revenue thanks to Virtual Summit Mastery. He's probably in 7-figure territory right now. So the Virtual Summit effect helps you raise your visibility. And this is something that you've probably seen too. You get invited into all sorts of different speaking opportunities. I've opened the Monetized Live Streaming Now Summit. I've opened the Hey Presto Conf, which is this funny space punk bunny on the right-hand side. I'm a brand ambassador for Cloudways. They pay me for creating content for over 2 years by now. I'm a brand ambassador for Weglot. I've been featured in multiple outlets like WP Tavern and Conversion XL and so on. And you've seen this probably as well, is that when you raise your profile, people start approaching you and say, hey, we want to work together and we'd like to interview you on our podcast or come onto our show or something like that. And that just spreads your brand even further. And it's hard to estimate what happens after a virtual summit ended. You never know who sees it. You never know how those relationships that you're building progress. But it is just from Cloudways, I've made well over 6 figures since 2015 because of the relationship that we built through a virtual summit. So
amazing.
It's very, very powerful stuff. And the top 4 reasons why somebody would join your summit so that you can build those relationships in the first place are that obviously they get financial gains when they promote as an affiliate, which is what you were just saying. If you didn't have your partners, the summit would have probably tanked. That is when you bring speakers and partners on to promote your virtual summit, they get increased exposure too. I've had summit speakers share after reviewing, after being on a virtual summit, that their website went down because they had so much traffic from the landing page of the virtual summit. They get quality content that they share with their audience. So when they drive their audience to your summit, you make them look good if your summit is done well.
Yeah.
And then the fourth thing, which is, I think nowadays more important than ever, if you create win-win relationships, you build that trust and you earn friendships over time. And I think with everything going on in the world, the one thing we all crave for is more human connection. And the one thing we all want less is being pitched online. And if you invite speakers to be at a virtual summit and you try to make it as easy as possible for them and you show them that you care about their success, you can build amazing relationships with industry leaders. So I've alluded to this earlier in the beginning. There are 3 levels of speakers that you can invite to your summit, even if you have no audience. I would start with connections you already have at any level from this. So the up and comer is somebody who's barely known, just getting started, but they have something important to share. Maybe they have come up with a new hypnosis method that they see work really well, or they have come up with a new coaching approach that they see work really well. Then you have trusted authorities. Those are people who run online courses, who maybe run virtual summits, they run podcasts, or they guests on podcasts a lot. And then you have A-listers. You have the really big names in your industry. And even though I have shown Tim Ferriss and Gary Vee on the slide, you probably cannot get them for free anymore.
Yeah.
But you get the idea. Those are people with multiple 100,000 followers. And you want to have millions, and you want to have a mix of each of those speakers. You don't want to have purely A-listers, because only A-listers won't promote. They don't need the promotion because they already have a big audience. And if you add another 1,000 or 2,000 people to their email list, they couldn't care less about it.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand,
that's very important that you mentioned that. Thank you. And yeah, keep going. I'm not going to interrupt. I just wanted to point that out.
Awesome. So on the other hand, you also don't want to have only up and comers, because then you end up with 30 up and comers who don't have an audience. And so you don't have an audience for your virtual summit. And speaker promotion still is very important these days for running a profitable virtual summit. So you want to have a mix of all of those. And when you have 1 or 2 A-listers on the summit, let's say you get Rand Fishkin from SparkToro in the digital marketing space, or you get a really well-known consultant from your industry and to speak at your summit, and you get 5 up-and-comers, those 5 people, they will be super excited that they get to share the stage with that celebrity. And they shout it from the rooftops. They'll tell everybody that they are sharing this stage, and they tweet, and if they use the same hashtag as the industry leader uses to promote your virtual summit, for example, you start building up momentum, and suddenly multiple people start promoting and multiple people start sharing. And then if you orchestrate this launch well, and you don't promote 3 months out before the summit, but everybody starts, let's say 4 weeks out or 5 weeks out, you get this compression that multiple people in your industry speak about your event at the same time. And this is how you make the name for yourself. This is how you drive people to your audience. So you start at the bottom. If you have no audience, you have to start at the bottom. You have to speak with up-and-comers first, and then you can approach trusted authorities and say, hey, I have 5 speakers or 10 speakers already confirmed. I would love to interview you as well on the virtual summit. And then if you have 20 speakers confirmed, you can approach the A-listers, and you can approach sponsors and so on. And you build your way up with that speaker lineup.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is you have to build those relationships before you need them. So if you see this presentation now and you say, okay, I don't want to run a virtual summit in 3 months, I might do it later down the road. I might do it in 2023. Still build that list of potential speakers that you would like to see at the summit and start networking with them. Because by the time they've seen your face, and if you make that ask after 3 months of just bantering and engaging on social and commenting with them, they are more likely to say yes. Whereas if you come out of nowhere and say, hey, I'm running a virtual summit, I would like to interview, you might still get a yes, but your chances are way lower than if they would already recognize your face. So how do you do that?
And can I just add, even if people say no, it's no right now. And I've had that several times. You know, when people said no, I don't have time. It's like I had one of the highest profile speakers, experts in the world of trauma, who actually presented for free, by the way, at our summit. And I initially got a no. And they said, no, we're too busy. I said, okay, when can I come back? And they said, well, reach out in 2 months, maybe we'll figure it out then. And I said, okay, well, so when is a good time in 2 months? And then they got back. So this was all through email, like back and forth. And then a week later said, well, we might have an opening now. When can you do it? And I was like, well, whenever you want. It's like, well, let's do it tomorrow. Fine. Boom. Done. So just stay with it. Yeah, just stay with it, because even they say no, it might be no right now. Just before our interview now, Jan, I had a guy who is very well known in the NLP and hypnosis space, who initially said to me, no. It's like, I don't want to speak. Everybody wants something and whatnot, and no, bugger off. And that was last year. And now, 6 months later, 7 months later, I said, hey, I'm putting up this event. Would you like to be presenting? Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to. and if you look in the chat history, the last conversation I had 6 months ago, he was so adamant. No, stop bothering me. But I just went back, 6 months later, and I said, absolutely, I would love to. When can we do it? So don't take no like the ultimate answer. It's never the ultimate answer.
Yeah, and even. That's a great point that you bring it up, because even if it is no and that rules them out as a speaker for your virtual summit that you're working on because of the timeline, ask them for referrals. Just ask them, hey, okay, no worries. Do you know somebody who would be a good fit?
Yeah.
And then you get 2 or 3 introductions to high profile people that you probably haven't thought of yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I love it. Never take no for an answer. And how do you build those relationships if you don't have an audience? That's also a common question. Like, I have nothing to offer. Nobody knows me. What could I bring to the table to somebody with 100,000 followers? One thing they all want to see is case studies. So take Brian Dean from Backlinko, for example. And I'm sorry for sticking with the online marketing space, but that's what I'm most comfortable in.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you. Can you make an introduction, please?
I'll see what I can do. I had coffee with him a few years ago in Berlin.
Awesome.
So take Brian Dean. He writes these super extensive blog articles, like 5,000 words, 250 graphics, everything laid out in detail, step by step to follow. And guess what? 99% of his readers do not do. They don't follow. They don't implement what he's teaching, or they implement part of what he's teaching. If you say to Brian, hey, I've read your article on this technique for link building. Here's where I was before with my website. Here's how it's ranking now. Thank you. How can I become a public case study for your work, even for the free content? You bet that he would be open to speaking with you. You bet that is a great door opener. Also, this is the lowest hanging fruit possible, engaging on their social accounts. One thing they all want is have conversations, because that boosts their little bit of organic reach that they still have. So when you see something that, let's say Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income is tweeting something about a new webinar that he's launching, share the webinar with your audience if it's relevant, and add your thoughts to it and tell a little bit of a story around it. Share their work. Buy their products if you can, even if it's just a book from Amazon. Here's a quick tip. When you buy the book or buy something from Amazon, do a video review and not just a written one, because video reviews stand out. And then if you can, buy the Audible version and do a review on Audible as well. The more you can review their work in places where nobody else or few people else review, the more the review will stand out to them. And then you take a screenshot, you share it on social, and you tag them, fantastic book by ABC, here's my review, pick it up. And this is how you leverage writing epic reviews for this. And obviously it goes without saying, if they have a product launch, support it as an affiliate, just as you were saying with your summit. If somebody wants to make a relationship with you, usually the best way to do that is sign up as an affiliate for one of your summit and knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
You would thank your best performing affiliates, and you would be open to having a call with them if they earned you $5,000. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And then
I'll even buy them coffee.
I love it. And then something that might not be possible for most people, but eventually you get the opportunity, is introduce them to somebody they want to meet. So let's say Brian Dean's website would be loading super slow, and I knew somebody who could fix it. I would set up an introduction and just say, hey, Brian, I noticed your website takes 15 seconds to load. My buddy ABC can make it so that the website loads in 1 second. I guess you would get more traffic, more conversion rates if you do that. So get a little bit creative with how you can build that relationship. And here's what I did with Rand Fishkin last year when I tried to build him on one of my virtual summits. I saw that he was live with a friend of mine on YouTube, and they had like 3 people watching live. So I tuned in, and then I shared the conversation on Twitter afterwards, and I tagged him. I submitted a question during that live stream, and Rand immediately replied, and you can see that he gave me his email address straight away. Yeah. And I'm just embedding that because he shared it publicly on Twitter, so there's no point in censoring that. But it's super easy to get even the big names like that if you show them that you engage with their audience and that you actually care about their success. And then what follows from that is you get those well-known people to promote your virtual summit. Here's Nicole is a friend of mine from the WordPress space. She has a super passionate following. She tweeted one of my virtual summits out. I thought I had more examples like that. But essentially what you want to do is at your virtual summit, make it as easy as possible for people to share it and to promote it. And one thing that I messed up is I didn't have the hashtag for the Build Your Audience Summit properly placed on the website, so that Nicole didn't use it. And it wasn't easy for people to see all the other tweets and contents going out around that virtual summit at the same time. But you get people to promote your virtual summit if you make it easy, which means you have to do the hard work for them. I should have embedded this hashtag on the website. I should have a click to tweet ready under every session for people to share it, for example. For your speakers, create swipe copy, create social graphics, so that the brand of your event grows, but also the brand of the speaker grows. Publish promotional calendar so that everybody who wants to promote knows when to push out which email or which piece of content and which messaging. Connect the swipe copy to your affiliate program, obviously, if you have that, so that it's easy for people to embed their own affiliate links. And the secret number 3 is you build multiple income streams from a virtual summit. So there are 6 ways you can actually monetize a virtual event. You have all access pass sales, which is the replays or the tickets. You have sponsorships. You can upsell to your own coaching offer. This is again how Chandler made so much money. If you already have an existing offer, you pitch that at the end of the summit. You can turn a summit into an evergreen format, similar to an evergreen webinar. People sign up for free for the virtual summit. They get, let's say, 5 days to consume all the sessions, and then you take them down, and you have people have to buy the all access pass. You can have affiliate promotions running after the summit ended. So for example, you and I could team up. You bring me back after the summit ended for a webinar where I pitch Virtual Summit Mastery and share more about this process. And if you bring in sales for my Virtual Summit Mastery program, you will get an affiliate commission as a summit host, another way to make money. And then the easiest way, but also I think one of the ways that gives the least amount of results is relaunching the same summit. So what you could do is you take the summit down, and in 3 months or 6 months, you bring it back, same speakers, same content, and you promote it to the same audience. And you'll see diminishing returns the more you do this. But I have people who do this with 1 summit per quarter. So they run a summit, and then for 3 quarters, they relaunch it 4 times or 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think it's a quick way to burn through an audience if you just promote the same content over and over again, but for them it's working.
Especially if they have big audience or refreshed audience, like, people coming in the pipeline all the time.
Yeah, that's I think why it's working for them, because they are an e-commerce brand, and they get new subscribers from their discount codes in the shop all the time, and that's who they promote those relaunch summits to. And these are some examples of the sponsors that I've worked with on my own virtual summits from that WordPress industry. And what you do is you build virtual booths for them, but I won't dive into this. It will be too deep. If you have any questions, leave some comments below the sessions and I'm happy to dive into that. Now, what do you want to do for ongoing cash flow after a virtual summit? What you want to do is, when the summit is over, you need to keep that conversation going. So I see a lot of summit hosts, they say, okay, I ran the first virtual summit. I only got, let's say, 300 attendees because ABC went wrong. I'm going to abandon the entire thing. I'm trying to do something else. And I think this is, obviously I'm biased, but I think this is the wrong mindset, because if you have 300 attendees for a virtual summit, those are 300 leads for your business. And they signed up because they are interested in the topic and what you have to offer. So an easy way to keep that conversation going with your attendees after the summit ended is to bring back new speakers, invite them for webinars, do more free training, repurpose the summit sessions into blog posts, use a tool like Descript, where you can transcribe an interview super easy and then you turn it into a blog post. Bring on board more speakers like the ones that you have to create fresh content. And here's the kicker. Ask people what they want next. Send out a simple survey after the summit ended. And this is sounds as dumbfounded as I'm asking people to speak at my summit. But it is the easiest way to come up with new marketing content. Have people tell them what they want to hear about and what they want to learn about. That is how you have ongoing cash flow.
And this is actually exactly how I've put up this event, because I asked people if they would be interested in learning how to promote themselves, you know, coaches, therapists, psychotherapists. And I had, from the previous events that I've done, when they fill out the feedback form at the end of the event, I had many people who said, you know, I would like to know, you know, more about marketing and business and promotion. And voila, you know, this is how this got, you know, got happened like that, because I asked.
Yeah, brilliant example. The more conversations you have, the more doors open. I'm a big believer in that. And we chatted off camera that I have 9 calls today, this being one of them. And all the other 8 calls are either for moving projects forward or for meeting new people, because I am a firm believer in that knowing more people helps you advance in your business and in your career. And that's essentially the end of my presentation here. So to summarize, you want to have that engaged, targeted email list. You want to have raised visibility, and you can create increased cash flow from a virtual summit, and you turn this coaching business and consulting business of yours into a wildly profitable online business.
Awesome, Jan. Thank you. I have a few questions. So, question number 1. What is the least amount of speakers you would say is advisable to put together to create a summit?
I would say 10 for a one-day summit is the minimum, because you need to have a little bit of chatter going on in the promotion. And when you have fewer speakers, you simply don't have enough speakers who are promoting the summit. If you can, the more the better. If you can go for 20, go for 20. If you can go for 30, go for 30. But don't let chasing 30 or 35 speakers prevent you from running the virtual summit. At some point, there's a point of diminishing return.
Yeah. And what do you think is what is advisable in terms of creating an event or summit? When is it too long? When is it becoming too long? How many days do you think would be advisable to run a summit for?
Depends heavily on the target audience. For that IT summit that I ran last month, we had a one-day summit with 6 interviews and 3 live sessions. And that was already stretching quite a bit, because we are targeting managers and directors and C-suite executives. They don't have a day to run to attend a virtual summit. Whereas our friend Cynthia Allen, she runs a 10-day summit.
Yeah.
and that works exceptionally well for her. So the point of the answer to that question is, as long as your audience can tolerate.
Yeah, yeah. I personally have done the largest summit I've done was 10 days with 50 speakers, and it was tough. I
I
was
can
on the
imagine.
brink
Yeah.
of burnout with that. And I realized that it's a bit too much for people. To do 10 days is like, oh, come on, another day and another day. Even it was a very interesting mix because they really wanted to learn, but at the same time, it's like, oh, it's enough already. Give me a break. It's like,
Yeah, it's
uh,
like in school when you have too many classes after another and your brain just shuts off at some point.
exactly, exactly, yeah. And would you, what is your take on when doing summits? Some people call it summits, other call it events, other call it conferences or whatnot. Did you find like there's a name is better than another name? What do you think?
That's a brilliant question. And I think this is due to how new the space is and that everything is still kind of evolving and in flow and finding its shape.
Mm-hmm.
For B2B events, I would probably call it a conference. I wouldn't call it a summit. For
Uh-huh.
lifestyle things, I would call it a summit and not a conference, just because of the terminology. Um, I think that what's most important is consistency. Like when you promote it as a virtual summit, don't send out marketing emails where you call it a conference
Mm-hmm.
because you might confuse people. But in the end, look at what other people in your industry are doing when they push their events as event.
Mm-hmm.
Make a decision whether you want to call it an event too or whether you want to call it a conference, and how you can justify that decision. What
Yeah.
is different? What makes it a conference instead of just an event?
Mm-hmm. And in terms of delivery of your conference event, summer, whatever you want to call it, um, what did you find is best for the audience? Pre-recorded, live? So the question is for the audience, not necessarily for the host.
I found that for interviews, it doesn't matter so much. Pre-recorded interviews get received very, very well still, because most of the time you would have a live chat there, and then people can chat live while
Mm-hmm.
they are listening to a pre-recorded interview. For presentations and for webinars and for panels and group conversations, live always trumps, I think, because it's
Mm-hmm.
easier for people to engage with an audience when they present something. Whereas when we were doing an interview right now and some people ask questions, that question would interrupt the flow quite a bit, and one of us would probably lose our train of thought.
Yeah.
Whereas when we do a live presentation and I was going through the slides live and people ask questions specific to the slide that I have on the screen, it doesn't interrupt so much. Plus, the audience feels like I'm speaking with them or I'm doing something with them, whereas I'm
Mm-hmm.
teaching at them if it's pre-recorded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. Awesome. Jan, thank you so much for your time, for your presence, for everything you've been sharing with us. Where can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about you, your programs, your products?
The best place is virtualsummitmastery.com. Don't forget the virtualsummitmastery.com/workbook giveaway that I had in the slides. And also, I have a gift for everybody who's watching this. You can get my best-selling book, Virtual Summit Mastery Method, plus a few video trainings for free. So don't forget to get in touch with me about that. And I'm sure we'll embed this somewhere below this
Yeah.
video on the page.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially for people in the premium pass, you will get your hands on that pretty fast when you sign up for the premium pass. All right, so everyone, Virtual Mastery Summit, virtualsummitmastery.com. That's where you find /workbook. That's where you'll get your workbook, and reach out. Learn how to do this. It is gonna change your business and it's gonna change your life. Again, Jan, thank you so much. Everyone,
Thanks for
we'll
having
take
me.
a quick break. Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. So everyone, we'll take a quick break and we will see you in the next presentation or in the next day. Jan, again, thank you.
Cheers.